It's always a great pleasure to be in Prague. I still remember coming here 10 years ago for NATO's Prague summit. I was Danish Prime Minister at the time. It was the first NATO summit to be held behind what had formerly been an Iron Curtain. It was the first summit, the first NATO summit of this 21st century, and the first summit after the terrorist attacks of 9/11. Mais c'est aussi ici, à notre sommet de Prague, que nous avons invité 7 pays à entamer des pourparlers d'adhésion avec notre alliance. C'est le plus grand groupe de pays à avoir franchi d'un coup de la porte de l'OTAN. Chacun de ces pays est aujourd'hui un allié sur lequel on peut compter. Cela prouve que la politique de la porte ouverte de l'OTAN a favorisé une Europe unie, libre et en paix. Et le processus se poursuit. La porte de l'OTAN reste ouverte. Ce sommet a donc été, à bien des égards, un événement d'une portée historique. Et il est devenu synonyme de la transformation de l'OTAN. Le slogan du sommet de Prague a été de nouveaux membres, de nouvelles capacités et de nouveaux partenariats. Ces 10 dernières années, notre alliance a continué à se réformer et à s'adapter. Nous avons préservé et renforcé notre capacité de sauvegarder la sécurité, de jouer un rôle influent dans les développements internationaux et de façonner un monde meilleur. Et ce ne sont pas des objectifs abstraits. Il y a 2 ans, à Lisbonne, nous avons adopté notre nouveau concept stratégique. Celui-ci présente la défense collective, la gestion de crise et la sécurité coopérative comme les 3 tâches fondamentales de l'OTAN. Plus tôt cette année, à Chicago, nous avons pris de nouvelles décisions qui nous permettront de mener à bien ces tâches. Elles sont le résultat d'une forte volonté politique. Nous devons à présent investir dans les ressources nécessaires pour les concrétiser. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is what I wish to discuss with you today. Defense spending is declining across the alliance. We need an economic recovery, and based on that, we need a defense recovery. We need to stop the decline, and then we need to reverse it. I believe that is possible. But it is going to require commitment and active support from NATO leaders and from you, NATO parliamentarians. I'm a politician like you, so I understand the political reality. When people are asked where governments should cut spending, defense is often the first area they mention. But as politicians, we all need to explain that there is also the security reality. Freedom does not come for free. And any decisions taken to improve our economy must not lead us into a different sort of crisis, a security crisis. To protect our people effectively, governments must continue to invest in real security. We need to have the right forces and capabilities to deter and defend against any threat to keep our nations safe. And let us be under no illusion. Our safety and security will be challenged. Crises will remain unpredictable, just as Libya was last year. Failed states will continue to host terrorist organizations that threaten us. Proliferation of weapons of mass destruction and the missile systems to deliver them is unlikely to stop overnight, and our sea lanes and other vital transport and communication systems will still need to be protected. All these complex challenges will not disappear while we focus on the economic crisis. They will not wait for our economies to recover. In fact, they may become even harder to tackle if we look away. So we need to continue to keep our defenses strong. It's a fact that the economic crisis has hit our defense spending hard. Compared to 2009, total Allied defense expenditure last year declined by over 56 billion US dollars in real terms. In Europe, 6 allies actually increased defense spending last year compared with 2009, but it was not by a large amount, and it was outweighed by the deep cuts made by the other 19 allies. Among the European allies, only 2 devoted more than 2% of their gross domestic product to defense last year. 4 devoted less than 1%. The United States, too, has just started to reduce its defense spending. And more cuts are in the pipeline. This is worrying. And the statistics reveal another worrying trend. Since the end of the Cold War, since 1991, the non-US share of NATO's defense spending has fallen from 35 to 23% today. This growing transatlantic gap is unsustainable. It undermines the alliance principle of solidarity. NATO is about sharing. Allies share the risks and the responsibilities just as they share the security benefits. And if we look at what's happening in the world around us, the clear message to Europe is this: we need to take on greater responsibility for our security, not less. We also need to look at these figures in the context of what is happening around us. While we are cutting, others around the world are spending and investing. By some estimates, defense spending in Asia has doubled this past decade. And this year, it will overtake defense spending in NATO's European allies for the first time. By 2015, China will outspend the 8 major NATO European allies combined. And Russia intends to double its defense budget from 3% to 6% of gross domestic product with the next 10 years. So, unless we act, and act now, I can see us facing 3 serious gaps. First, the deep cuts in some European defense budgets will create a gap within Europe itself. Many allies here will find it increasingly difficult to acquire the necessary defense capabilities. This will lead to an inability to act collectively in international crisis management. Second, the growing gap in transatlantic defense spending risks weakening United States support for the alliance. There's already a worrying perception on the other side of the Atlantic that Europeans are freeloaders. Whenever I meet lawmakers on the Hill, I get asked, why should we commit and engage in NATO if the Europeans are not prepared to? This is a fair point, and it requires the right response. And third, the rise of emerging powers will create a gap between their ability to act and ours. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not implying their rise will pose a direct threat to the alliance, but if we continue on our current path and further diminish defense spending, we will see our influence diminish on the international stage just as fast. Now, this may sound like doom and gloom, and that's not my intention, because I believe there is a way forward. For now, we need to hold the line on defense spending. And as our economies improve, we need to consider increasing our investment in defense again. And throughout, we need to make the most of the taxpayers' money that we do have. We have already decided how to do just that. We have our roadmap. At our summit in Chicago in May, we set ourselves the goal of NATO Forces 2020. Forces that are more capable, more compatible, and more complementary. And we can get there through smart defense and the Connected Forces initiative, if we back them up with the necessary political willpower. Let me say a few words about each of these initiatives. Smart defense is a new guiding principle for capability development. By joining together to acquire capabilities, nations will be able to afford what they cannot do alone. It is about greater resource efficiency and doing better with what we have. Let me stress, this is not an excuse to do less with less. The key to smart defense is greater prioritization, specialization, and, most importantly, multinational cooperation. Since Chicago, we have already made encouraging progress. For example, we are buying drones that will give us a NATO-owned and operated intelligence and surveillance systems. Our missile defense system to protect our populations and territories is now operational. And here in Prague, we have the example of the Multinational Logistics Coordination Center, which enables allies to work together more effectively. Many more projects are coming through the pipeline. We need to maintain the momentum. We must continue to push ahead with those projects we have agreed. And we must push forward with the other projects that we have identified as being suitable for multinational approaches. The Connected Forces initiative is focused on our operational effectiveness. Every day, NATO forces are working shoulder to shoulder from Afghanistan to Kosovo and off the coast of Somalia. They have also developed the habit of working with partners from outside the alliance. This is a vital skill, and it's one we need to retain after we complete our ISAF mission in Afghanistan. Here again, multinational approaches can help. There is considerable scope for making our training and education more multinational, for boosting multinational contributions to our exercise programs, especially where the NATO response force is concerned. In sum, multinational solutions will be vital for sustaining our effectiveness as an alliance. They will allow us to get more bang for the buck, or euro, and more security for our limited resources. They will lead to savings that can be reinvested in other vital defense areas. They will ensure we focus on priorities and on developing capabilities that can operate together. And they will help defense industry by offering multinational contracts and jobs where otherwise there would be none. Quite simply, in today's security and economic climate, multinational solutions are essential if we are to maintain our edge. Ladies and gentlemen, our alliance has stood the test of time, both in good times and bad. Despite the current economic difficulties, it continues to provide the framework that enables allies to achieve greater security together than they could ever achieve on their own. That's why we need to keep our alliance strong. As Secretary General, I will continue to play my part. I will look for new solutions and multinational approaches. for more possibilities to connect our forces together, both within Europe, across the Atlantic, and with our partners, for ways to engage directly with industry, and to make better use of common funding, so that we keep both our capabilities and our partnerships strong in the 21st century. But the alliance also needs you to do more. As members of your national parliaments, you have considerable responsibilities. You have to make the difficult choices about how protecting our security, our prosperity, and the sovereignty of our nations. You also have considerable responsibilities as members of the NATO Parliamentary Assembly. NATO needs you to continue explaining to your colleagues in Parliament and to your voters at home why investment in defense and security remains essential to protecting the values that underpin our way of life. NATO needs you, the decision makers, to look for the multinational solutions so that smart defense and the Connected Forces Initiative are fully implemented to help us through these difficult economic times. And most importantly, NATO needs you to help hold the line on defense spending to avoid the risks that would be created through further cuts. We need you to increase defense spending as soon as the economic situation allows. What I have laid out for you today is how you can meet your national and NATO responsibilities. Your choices will determine whether NATO will be as successful in the future as it was in the past, and whether we can protect our values and our security in the future as effectively as we have done in the past. I count on you to make the right choices for our future. Thank you.